appreciate it. Can you hear me? Everyone hear me okay? And also, do you see my screen?
Yes, I'll make
Okay.
you feel better.
Okay. Well, let's get underway then. Where the topic is judging rose photography. Okay, this is a beautiful snowscape by Tom Mayhew. Uh, we'll forever remember him. Okay, our agenda today is to build consistency and confidence in judging rose photography. And specifically, we'll go through a process to engage and encourage exhibitors. We'll talk about writing a solid schedule, understand how the eye works, and cover guidelines for judging photos, point scoring, and advice to grow photo exhibiting participation. So to engage and encourage others, uh, to me, this is why we're judges. It's because we've mastered horticulture exhibiting, and we want to keep exhibiting, and that's in port or arrangements or photography, whatever our focus is. But with port judges, I encourage you to keep exhibiting and exhibit in photography as well. Judges should be front and center and actively encourage and exhibiting. Uh, Invite your rose friends over, your grandkids over to shoot your garden or meet you at a public garden. Take hundreds of photos. You want to experiment. You want to master the craft so you can inspire others. Okay. After the rose show, when all the photography exhibitors come back to see how they did, and when the public comes in, make a point to be there and to give beneficial advice to those who would like to receive it. Be sure to congratulate, recognize participants, and encourage upward progression. And what that means is a local show, you have an award winning photo, be sure it advances to the district show and from the district show to a national show. And encourage people. And if you have solid rose photography skills, tuck others under your wings. They become your mentees. But if you desire to develop your own photography skills, seek out a mentor so you can develop those skills. You want to engage because, as we all know, the best horticulture judges are those top exhibitors. And likewise, with our photography, those who judge photography, those who master and become the master level photographers, they're our best judges. So for today, participating in this training seminar and completing the coursework, which we'll talk about at the end, is a 1 credit. So let's move on to writing a solid schedule. Um, as we all know, the final authority for a rose photography show is its own schedule, providing it's not in conflict with ARS rules. It's advisable to have an accredited judge who can write or review the show schedule using the guidelines for judging photography as a reference. And with all judges, you want to refresh every year the guidelines for judging photography. Uh, they have not changed. There are a couple of updates that we'll cover today, but the rules are the same, and I'm kind of shocked at number of people who will judge without ever reading the guideline, and that's the start point. Okay. It's important to be clear as to requirements of a class. We want to use the same definitions that are outlined in guidelines. And that's so that there's no confusion with exhibitors or confusion with the judges. Okay. Information on the intellectual property, they must be included in the schedule. We don't want to be selling someone else's photos or providing that photo to others without their specific permission. So, and then an important thing is size matters. In our shows, you want to be specific in your schedule. Do you have a 5x7 matted, or just a 5x7, plain photo? We want to, as an organization, get away from these 4x6 photos. 4x6 photos are just a snapshot. And yes, it's a little more economical, but they're in that small size. Um, uh, Flaws can be hidden. And we want to be sure that we are uh, using the size guideline judiciously and fairly throughout. So if we have a 5x7 contest and someone shows up with an 8x10, um, thank them for bringing it, and maybe you can do a decorative display, but it can't go into the mix of the judge contest because uh, size really matters. All right. So we want to be sure to stick with that. And if it's an 8x10 contest, that's what we want to roll with. The print contest, each exhibit receives a judge's designation. And this is important in a local or district show where we have a print contest and the public is coming to view, the exhibitors are there. uh, you want a designation of a blue, a red, or yellow, or a judge, and be able to explain why each received that designation. We don't want to have a print contest and run it like a challenge class where we're only denoting blues. Um, I find that photographers crave and need the feedback. So you can imagine someone's dismay if it's a print contest and there are 100 photos and then there are only 20 blues, and they wonder how they fared. And so it's important to uh, give that in terms of a designation, a ribbon, and also uh, verbally be able to walk someone through it or walk the public through it. Picking the court is as easy as one, two, three. And I find that people that some people get confused on it, and it actually is very easy. um, you pick. It doesn't matter if it's exhibitor grown or not. Just take that out of the equation. You pick the best photo. The best photo is first. It's the queen. The second photo is the king. The third is the princess. So one, two, three. Think of it that way. Awarding certificates for EG, exhibitor grown, it should not be confusion. But it all relates to the schedule and how you've worded it. So if your one, two, three, first, second, third picks are also EG, then you award gold, silver, bronze to that first, second, third, and you're done. And you have three photos that represent that photo court. And the additional distinction, and think about EG as being an additional distinction, and then they get the gold, silver, bronze. Perhaps only the third place is EG. Well, they would get the gold uh, certificate of merit or certificate of distinction. Now, it depends on how it's written. Maybe it's written that there will be a first, second, third, and gold, silver, and bronze. And in that case, if the first, second, third are not EG, then you would need to go back and look at the blues that are EG and select the gold, silver, bronze from that. And I hope that provides some clarification. Added to our guidelines will be the use of artificial intelligence uh, to create or enhance a photo is not permitted in any class. AI enhanced or AI generated photos will be disqualified. And what this means is if you have a base photo and you have the editing software and you say, hey AI, I'd like for to flip it around, turn it upside down, make the color vibrant, do this, that, and the other, sing and dance. Uh, and it will create a photo for you. But the AI generated photos are easily detected. So I just want to get ahead of that curve. Uh, that doesn't mean Photoshop, which is completely different. I'm talking about AI generated photos or AI enhanced photos will be disqualified. Okay. Um, and always photography chairs and your district chairman of photography. Uh, I'm always, everyone's always happy to help. Send those schedules along. They'll be reviewed in short order. And that's so that um, it's clear to both judges and exhibitors. Okay. So the rules for judging photography and horticulture and arrangements, it really isn't about what do those judges want. It's really about how the eye works. So the rules are based on design principles. And so in photography, when we talk about a sharp focus, well, that's for the eye to settle on it. Your eye doesn't want to see something that's not crisp, that's out of focus. So sharp focus. It's not a judge's requirement. It's a requirement based on how the eye works. uh, Cropping. You want to give the subject room to move into or to look into the picture. So you can crop really close so that there's no mistake as to what it's intended. Or if you're doing a landscape, you're going to be able to look into that picture. And there are all sorts of rules of composition that apply. And but cropping should be so you're focused on that subject. Um, how the eye works. If you're looking at a landscape, you don't want uninteresting sky or a bland foreground. Anything that doesn't add interest to a picture. You want your eye is searching for movement. Where's the photographer taking you? Will it be around a path or to the end of a tunnel? Also, as it relates to horticulture, is there movement in the inflorescence of a spray, or the beckoning of the stamens, or the petal swirl of a well-groomed rose? And there are movements in these photos, and that's what you want to look for. That's what your eye looks for. If your subject is truncated, it leaves a very jarring look. So you want to be careful how you crop. And throughout the presentation, we'll point these things out, how the eye works and how jarring a truncated subject is. Um, Irrelevant objects, try not to include objects that don't add to, or more importantly, distract from that main subject of interest. So, because that's how the eye works, you don't want a main subject, but your eye is being pulled away from it by something in the foreground or in the background. And your eye responds to a depth of field. That's the distance from the front to the back that's in focus. A lot of times we'll just abbreviate and say, well, that that rose really pops, and we're talking about the depth of field. Okay, with some just a little terminology. So when we're talking about exposure, That means that there is proper exposure. It's not overexposed, which this spray of joy is overexposed. And I hope you can see that very, very clearly. It's way overexposed. But then there's underexposure as well. So you want to get your exposure correct. And overexposed photos, we in the digital contest, we have 1,250 photos, 1,300 photos come through, and exposure is a big issue, and it is the has to be a good horticulture sample and also a good photographic specimen. uh, Framing, and we talk about this a lot. Um, so, in this example, and I hope you can see the difference of how you can frame a subject. So, if I were judging the photo on the left, I'd say the framing, which falls under composition, uh, needs a lot of work. And I would look at this as a red designation, a second place, where if it had just done a little framing to make that stand out or to make the bloom pop, uh, and my eye settles on that super crisp, clear, focused, gorgeous horticulture specimen, boom, instant blue. So just a little cropping framing goes a long way. And I would say, in looking through all the photographs, that is also a number one uh, flaw, if you will, in the photography. And just a little adjustment will really, really make the difference. Saturation. I hope you can see this. This is Disneyland Rose, and the uh, top one is way oversaturated. Oversaturated to the point there's no distinction in the roses. It looks blobbish, and there's no greenery associated with this, which is a separate issue. But we're talking saturation, so this is way oversaturated. The Disneyland spray at the bottom is somewhat muted, ever so slightly, maybe undersaturated. I would add a tad of saturation to the bottom photo, and I think it would make it much more, um, it would be much more vivid. The top one is a little hard to correct. It's easier to up the level of saturation than it is to decrease the level of saturation after the fact. So, saturation refers to that intensity or the purity or the vividness of colors from muted to vibrant. But with saturation like that, the top one, that's major points off. Depth of field. Again, depth of field is the distance between the nearest and the farthest objects uh, that are acceptably in sharp focus in the image. And I hope you can appreciate, the depth of field in this photo. And with macro photos, that's so important. And what a great capture. And you can see the gradation of focus. And this makes the photo pop. It makes the critter pop. This was entered under Rose Potpourri. It's one of Rich Bear's photo. So composition, technique, and distinction. We're going to talk a lot about, because this goes to our point scoring. And you want to have this as your uh, template for judging. And conformance, 5 points, horticultural excellence, 50, composition, technique, distinction, each have 15. So the photographic excellence is 45 points. That's why I say it must be a good horticulture uh, specimen as well as have that photographic excellence. And the two combined will make for a great photo. So you want to keep this in mind as we run through this. Okay, so let's talk about judging photos of horticulture classes. I'm going to cover a few of the horticulture classes and blooms with critters, and Bill's going to cover arrangements, macros, and other classes. Okay, if we talk about judging one bloom, and that's of a hybrid tea, grandiflora, miniature, miniflora, floribunda. Uh, Roses as singles, they're not included in this class. So the horticultural guidelines, you want to ask yourself, is this rose fresh? Does it come through as fresh? It's got to be a photo of a good horticulture, well grown and fresh specimen. Is there good symmetry? Are there distinctive centers? Are there no distractions in the photo? Then, from a photographic standpoint, is the subject in focus? Is it overexposed? Is it underexposed? Does it pop? Is it well cropped? Is there movement? Is there a wow factor? So those are the kind of questions that you want to be asking if you're judging one bloom. So let's take a look at some of the submittals and talk about uh, the ins and outs of this photo. Certainly, this is a veteran's honor, and I'm going to show you a number. You can imagine that's a very photographic rose and very photogenic, and so get a lot of these blooms. This is a rain-soaked, you know, uh, veteran's honor. It has a center, but you can see and it's framed well, and you've got no distractions in the background, but boy, in the foreground you got a lot of distractions. Uh, you don't want to submit rain-soaked photos um, in the horticulture classes. You want to think about if you were seeing this horticultural specimen in a rose show, would would it have these raindrops on it? No. And this is, and sometimes there will be maybe an artistic raindrop or two in a hort class, and it's not uh, point scored, maybe take a point off, but this is very, very distracting. And also, this is not a crisp photo. It's not sharp. It's a bit out of focus. So this this would not point score well. This would not be what we would call a a a blue photo. And also, I want to say this. I picked photos at random. Some mine, some others, but they have come through the deck. So if I'm using one of your photos as an example, good, bad, ugly, uh, indifferent, top quality, it's all random picks. So please appreciate that. Okay, judging one bloom. This again. This is Veterans Honor, and it's obviously staged. It's not it's not it's an outdoor grown rose, but it's staged indoors, and you can see they tried to capture the foliage, and that's very important. We don't want to advance photos to a top spot that doesn't have foliage, because when we're judging a horticulture specimen on the rose show, we're looking at those leaves to frame that bloom. So floating blooms are uh, will not merit a high score. They will not merit a blue position. And in the rules, it says, the photos nestled in greenery, photos with the foliage will be rewarded. So the green, the foliage is there. It's not framing the photo, but the bloom is actually very lovely. Separation of petals is nice capture, and red roses are hard to capture. This has a center. It's a good horticultural specimen, so that would be a contender for a blue if we were lining all these veterans honor up together. Another veterans honor, you'd have to look at this and say that from a horticultural perspective, it's not opened enough, it's not developed enough, um, there's not enough separation of petals, and from a photographic perspective, it is very overexposed. So that would not merit a blue. Okay, judging another bloom. This is a lovely bloom nestled in greenery. Nice separation of petals. Nice horticulture specimen. But those raindrops are very distracting. Um, Not a good submission for a one bloom uh, hort category. Maybe it would work better in a creative category, but it actually looks like a rain-soaked photo. Okay, moving along. So this photo's very interesting angle, nice, um, has a nice pop to it. You see that they blurred the background, the foliage, but um, it lacks symmetry in the bloom. So points would be taken off for a horticultural specimen. And this is a good example of again of veterans honor. It has merit to it. I'd say it's a good horticulture specimen. The bottom leaves, they may be a little lower, than you would like to see it groomed, and then the top is a little tighter, so maybe the separation of petals is not equal distance, but it's still a good sample. Where this photo loses it is on the lighting. Uh, the the lighting is off balance and actually distracting. Okay, and then another Veterans Honor. We see many faces of Veterans Honor, um, and this from a horticulture specimen. Um, its petals are a little beat up. The bottom right is a little wonky, and then the lighting. There's issues with the lighting. It's a bit overexposed. The background's a bit dark. Framing is good, so the balance is good, but the balance of the bloom needs some work. So that has horticulture issues as well as photographic excellent issues. Okay, so now this is a veterans honor nestled in greenery, lovely symmetry, lovely separation of petals, great capture, great center. Obviously, um, from a Hort perspective, if you saw it on the um, uh, show table, you would be gaga over it. And from a photographic excellent perspective, the exposure is great. The depth of field is wonderful. That rose just pops. It looks like you can reach out and touch it. Uh, Composition is wonderful. I think it has a tremendous wow factor. So so we went through a lot of veterans honor. There are two that would merit a blue. And so I look at A and B. So in terms of point scoring, the both these veterans honors side by side, just like you would in a print contest or in a digital contest. Uh, when you have something, you you can have this template in your mind, or you can write it down. And sometimes when things are close, you get clarity by writing it down, and also in that discussion with your teammate. So if I look at Exhibit A, it conformance, they both conform to the rules and definitions. The horticultural excellence on B is greater than on A. I think the composition um, the is better on B than on A, and that meaning the balance, the uh, the cropping, the color quality. I think it has a little bit of an edge. Technique, I think they're about equal, but the distinction you would give the nod to B. Okay. Both excellent photos. I think A would have done a little bit better uh, if there had been, some foliage, but they're both blues. It's just one merits a distinction as opposed to B merits the distinction as opposed to A. Both excellent photos. Okay, um, selecting best of one bloom. This is the rose is Bob Martin, and you can see it's the same rose, and it's from the same bush. So I would like, um, if you will, is Dave Candler on the session today? If Dave is on, would you unmute and give us your review of the horticulture and photographic excellence of both, and which one you would pick over the other? Dave, are you on? If you will unmute. Okay, no Dave. All right, let me try.
Here I am.
Oh, Dave. Okay, give us your commentary on this is Bob Martin, A and B. So start with A, and then tell us which one you would select as the best photo.
Okay. Uh, Generally speaking, I like the color in A better than B. B is apparently washed out a bit, uh, although it's been a while since I've seen Bob Martin in an actual physical state. So, but I like the color in A better. The centers are about the same, horticulturally so. I think that the cropping at the top of A is a little bit too close, and so that's not a really big thing, but that's is better on B. Uh, the background I like better on A in B. Uh, you can see the leaves as more crisp and but not distractingly so. Um, let's see. Um,
That
the
that
focus is B goes out of focus to the back of the broad petals, and that's just uh, I don't like that much. I prefer it being all in focus if it's the flower.
excellent commentary. And then based on that, which would be your top pick? They're both blues, but
Yeah, I think they're both blues. A I would pick over B.
beautiful. Excellent commentary. Thank you so much. Okay. uh, Judging photos of a spray class. So if we look at what is a spray, two or more blooms of a hybrid tea, grandiflora, miniature, miniflora, floribunda, classification of roses. Uh, the Judges have an advantage. We know what a spray is. I mean, two or more blooms of a particular classification of rose. A lot of people entering or beginning their rose journey, they believe a spray is four buds and a terminal bloom inside, and they look at that as a spray. I mean, I can't tell you how many entries we have like that. So that's not a spray. So the first question you want to ask is it a spray? Is it two or more blooms? Is it fresh? Is there good inflorescence? Is the coloration representative of the variety? And then from a photography standpoint, is it in focus? Is it overexposed, underexposed? Is it a pop? Is it well cropped? Is there a wow factor? Are there no distractions? And you're going to hear this, and it's repetitive, but that repetitiveness is good so that you'll be asking yourself and having the right discussion with your fellow judge. So, first up, this is a shrub rose. I think it's a David Austin shrub rose, but obviously staged. And what I don't know if I can. I wish I could enlarge this for you, but I hope you can see it. So it's got the greenery. It's two blooms. Um, the but the blooms are out of focus. The focus of this photo is on the foliage, and it's the way the lighting is set up, and then the capture of this uh, in terms of composition. It There's too much black space. There's too much of a void. So this is not well balanced or well framed. So if we go to another, I think this is Dorothy Rose. So if we look at this, it's well framed. Composition is nice. We have the foliage. Foliage doesn't frame, but the foliage is there. Stamens are fresh. Symmetry of the uh, single petals is good. On the left-hand side, upper, there's a bit of a distraction with the dark red petal. I can't tell if that's from another rose or part of uh, the bloom on the left. So there's a little bit of a distraction, and then the it's nice inflorescence, but the break in color of the nature of this rose, um, it disturbs the rhythm of the photo itself. Okay. And this is I'm going to show a series of Danny Best and talk about uh, judging the photos of this spray class. So stamens are fresh. Boy, uh, petals are are fresh. It's a good horticulture exhibit, except for that bottom left bloom. It looks like it's a wee bit short there in that petal. And then the top right bloom, from a photographic standpoint, uh, the light hasn't reached it. So it's kind of an uneven, I would say, unintended distribution of light. And the big bugaboo is there's no foliage. It's not framed in foliage. It's a floating spray. So that would not merit a blue. Okay, this is Danny Bess, and we've got three blooms. The stamens really reach out and grab you. It's a lovely inflorescence. You can see the foliage. Foliage is a tiny bit pea green, but this is well framed. Has nice distinction. Uh, good good photo. Okay, this is another example of Danny Bass. This is a submittal, um, and boy, you've got that rose, front and center, but the spray, it's truncated, and we talked about that early on in the presentation, how jarring that is, and um, this isn't balanced. Uh, I see the stamens in one bloom that's front and center. I don't see the stamens in the one on the left, and I wish I did. Um, the unfurled petals, they're not too distracting, but this is not about a balanced photo composition. Okay. And then this is another spray class. I think the framing could be improved. From a horticulture perspective, some of the petals seem a wee bit beat up. Stamens look fresh, but we're playing peekaboo with the stamens. The angle on this um, is is not desirable. Okay, another version of Danny Bass, many faces of Danny Bass. This is more a linear focus, um, and so with inflorescence, it's somewhat pleasing. I see the bud on the left-hand side. To me, that's a bit of a distraction. I like that they have the foliage, but um, I would say the degree of openness on this example would not merit a blue. So what are we left with in that roundup? So the Dorothy Rose, which was a stellar photo, nice inflorescence, and then the Danny Best. So I look at that, the Dorothy Rose is A and the Danny Best is B, and it's point scored. And so the horticultural excellence, as we talked earlier, there's a little bit of noise, if you will, on the left hand side, upper right. So I took off points for that. And then the composition, I'd say they both are equal merit. Uh, Technique, I would downgrade the Dorothy Rose just ever so slightly on, I think um, uh, the lighting is just a tad overexposed, a tad. And then the distinction, I think that Danny Best, has that wow factor. As a matter of fact, this rose made the cover of ARS magazine a couple of years ago. This is by Larry Habish. Okay, when we talk about selecting best spray. Whoops. Oh, okay. Selecting best spray. So A would be, I think this is, lost what rose this is. Perhaps State of Grace, and um, and then the spray on the right hand side. So which would you choose? What is your commentary? And maybe I can call on, is Elena Williams on the call? Maybe I can get commentary from Elena and what she would pick between these two um, sprays.
Elena, you're muted.
Yes, well, I like that they're both good horticultural specimens. They each have three very nice roses. The background on A makes the photo pop, the dark, whereas in B, the background shows a little distraction with the light. You can see the straw or the mulch, and in the upper left-hand corner, you can see part of another rose on the same bush. So between the two of these photos, I would say A is my preference, although B has horticultural excellence also.
Okay. I think that's excellent commentary. And may I add that the lighting on B is slightly overexposed. Yeah, excellent. So you would pick A over B.
Yes, I would.
Uh-huh. But both are worthy of blue placement.
I agree.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, uh, let's go to open bloom stamen showing. So one bloom fully open, stamens must show on hybrid teas, grandiflora, miniature, mini flores, roses designated singles are, oops, that should say are not uh, in, included in this class, but okay. So horticulture guidelines, again, is it fresh? Is it good symmetry? Is the coloration representative of the variety? Are the stamens distinctive? This is open bloom stamen showing. So you want those stamens to reach out and pop you in the eye. I mean, and they've got to be fresh. So, and from a photography standpoint, are you drawn to the stamens? Is the subject in focus? Is it overexposed, underexposed? Does it pop? Is it well cropped? Are there no distractions? And is there a wow factor? And you're probably saying, didn't she say that before? Yes, absolutely. So, open bloom, stamen showing. Boy, you gotta love the symmetry of this bloom. This is colorific. Nestled in greenery. Framing is great. Lighting is good. It captures that yellow coloration. We've got a little uh, petal not wanting to lay flat um, on the around the stamen, so that's a teeny bit of a distraction. Stamens are nice. They're nice. This is worthy of a blue. And we'll go back and look at stamens. Okay. Open bloom stamen showing. Yes, stamens are showing. Um, from a hort perspective, uh, this isn't a good photo. Um, but from a photographic perspective, in this category, it's not open blooms stamens peeking out. It's open blooms stamens showing. I want to see those stamens, and we've got them partially hidden. And then, of course, the other distraction, side buds are allowed to the extent that they're not a distraction. This on the left is a distraction. So that would not merit a blue for those reasons. Open bloom stamen showing. This is a great specimen, nestled in greenery, nice separation of petals, good distinction. There's a hard rose um, to photograph, and it's a different angle. Stamens are jumping out, so definitely, a blue here. Uh, Open bloom stamen showing, and this should really jump out at you because um, when we talk about symmetry and the way this should draw you in with the coloration and having a bull, there's nothing like a bullseye to pull you into a photo. And this would, if it wasn't out of focus. And I hope you can see that. The focus is on the wonderful, beautiful, shiny foliage. It's not on the bloom. So this cannot merit um, a good placement. It's out of focus. Okay, open bloom stamen showing. This is hula hoop. So there is a green background. I wish I could enlarge this to show you how blurred the foliage is, but how this bloom pops um, is is really nice, and it has movement. It almost looks like a pinwheel, and the movement is so important. And there's movement in the stamens there, in those stamens, anthers, and stigma. They're all just reaching out for you, and you can almost feel like you can reach out and touch this. The depth of field on this photo is just excellent. Um, so if you look in that lineup, there were three blues, and so an A, B, C. And I've looked at, the point scoring on this. Conformance, everything gets 5 points. The horticultural excellence, I would say A and C get the full 50 points. B, I would deduct 5 points because the petals, as we get close to the center, are a bit wonky, but I love the symmetry of that. Uh, Composition, meaning the framing, the balance, um, the cropping. That's I say it's all excellent. Now we start talking about technique. I'd say the technique in A is excellent. Uh, and that means the lighting and the depth of field and the focus and the crispness, the sharpness, the movement of that um, rose is excellent. In B, um, it it's a nice photo. It's a tiny bit flat, and but the technique in C, I see a nice pop, a nice depth of field. Um, and then we go to distinction. Um, I would say the distinction um, on A is higher than the distinction on the other two. I um, I guess one thing I would say about A, it's got the uh, top right quadrant, there's a petal that's split a bit, and that catches my eye a tiny bit. But other than that, I just think it's an incredible photo. So, who, which one of the blues would get the nod? A. Excellent photo. Okay, when we talk about creative classes, blooms with critters. This is a photograph of any bloom or blooms with a critter, such as a bee, butterfly, pet, or other friendly creature. Roses must be identified. This definition is really important. Um, it's worded blooms with critters. It's not um, rose canes with a critter. It's not uh, critters with roses. It's blooms with critters. Okay, so the emphasis is on the bloom. All right, and we want would it would be appreciated by exhibitors to have some consistency in this category uh, because um, pets, a dog, a kitty, there and any friendly creature would be considered in this category. And then the questions to ask is this photo taken in nature? Um, and you'll understand what I mean by that as we go through the photos. Is the photo imaginative? Is it not busy or cluttered, meaning restraint has been shown? Is the exposure pleasing? Is it balanced? Is it well framed? We're looking for all those, even in this creative class, because that's how the eye works. Okay, judging blooms with critters. This is a garden shot and a lot of blooms in the garden, uh, kitty cat on a fence, and look at that fence, that the, the, the slates in the fence have a lot of character. Uh, the, the balance of this photo, the, the cat is on the right hand side, but it's balanced by the spray on the left hand side. This is brilliantly framed and captured. Okay. Um, Another example of blooms with critters. Now, this is a just the sweetest doggy with an out of focus bloom. And so the focus is on the sweet little dog. And we want the focus to be on the rose specimen. So this is an example of, yes, it conforms to the schedule, but the and the intent is to showcase the bloom along with the pet. Okay. I had someone submit one time. It was a very miniature rose in a vase, small vase with a very large cat. It must have been like a 25-pounder Mancoon, and overshadowed, the rose completely. And the person said to me, my cat wins every show that she goes to, except this one. I said, but this is a photo show, not a cat show. So that's what you have to keep in mind, please. Judging blooms with critters. This is a very beautifully framed specimen. Obviously, take it in nature, nestled in greenery, of a frog sitting there. I think this is from a horticulture perspective as well as from a photographic perspective, excellent. And now we go to the something not in nature. So you would want to see nothing against praying mantis. That's a great capture. Nothing against it, but a floating loon on a black background with two praying mantis is not the does not capture the intent or the spirit of the category. We want to see praying mantis in nature, not against a black background. So the theme has to carry through. It has to make sense. Okay, and then again, this is a roses blooms with fritters, and these are three bumblebees wrestling amongst the stamens and anthers. And uh, what I really love about this photo is the composition, the framing of this. If you look at it, you have these actually leading lines that is the space between the petals serve as these leading lines, farther directing your eye to these bees in the center. And then the stamens provide movement and the shadows provide excellence. This is just a captivating photo. Very, very well done. It has a huge wow factor. Okay. This another bloom with a critter, and the frog is kind of tucked away. This is it's muted. The coloration is good. The lighting is good, but there's a big distraction and a big framing issue, and it has to do with that background. So that would not, merit a blue. It would get a different distinction. Now, it could have been bumped up had this been framed differently. Again, composition is 15 points, but that hole in the background is just too distracting. So in this lineup, if you will, there are three blues. And so, and you can see A, B, C, and did the best to uh, point score these fairly, and where the in this it was tough. I would say A loses a bit on distinction um, and a wow factor. Although it's a great photo, you don't want to take anything away from it. And B, incredible photo with the leading lines and the movement. But if I were judging this, the nod would go to C, and that would be the garden, the prolificness of the garden, and the balance and proportion and the inclusion of that uh, fence, and not a huge amount of fence, but the way the fence frames that whole photo and of that garden shot and that balance and proportion uh, is hard to beat. But all excellent photos, but I would give that nod to C. But definitely had to point score this to sort through that. Okay, and the last category that I'll cover is judging abstract impressionism class. And you want to ask, is it imaginative? Is there photo editing, software? Is it done artfully? Uh, some people are more prolific with their software tools, and that comes with practice. Is it artfully done, or does it look like it's been photoshopped? Um, is the shape of the rose or rose part still identifiable? Is there photographic excellence? Um, um, some people will use a horticultural specimen, but the background makes it unique. Is it not distracting? And is there this creative naming is part of the creative interpretation? Is the work creatively named? Because that helps sell it. It shows the intent. So, um, examples of abstract impressionism. And I put this together more to show the different styles. And this is a layering technique, and it's called iceberg fantasy. And I know this took hours to do and tinkering with it. So it was an iceberg bloom. It wasn't enough to be a single shrub bloom. It wasn't enough to put in the stamens weren't showing enough to make it a good open bloom stamen showing. So they were thinking about what else to do with it. And this the coloration and the layering, and you still see the image. And it's called iceberg fantasy. Um, is I just think a brilliant abstract impressionistic photo. Okay, and then you have what I was referring to earlier, a horticultural specimen uh, with a background. And I think this is soaring spirits. I hope I'm not wrong on this. And so it's a play on the background. It looks like the bloom is soaring, and you see the movement of the petals and the stamens and the great background. The coloration is good, and so this is it's different, but it's a blue on its own merit. Okay, not distracting, very simple, and there's a lot to be said about simplicity when it comes to these these categories. Beautiful capture, beautiful framing. And then there are these what I call kind of put together and play type of abstract art. And the photographer took obviously petals, and he assembled them not in a line, but in an interesting line that you wonder where it's going. And then the gradation and the angle and the framing of this photograph is very, very nice because it weaves your eye through all the way to the end. And the larger petals are in front, and then they get smaller as you go. It's like a winding road, only done with rose petals. So this is a blue on its, on merit. And this photo, boy, does it pop. Um, uh, it it's called Ring of Rain Around Ring of Fire. So brilliant creative titling, and I love the light and dark play on this, as well as the use of the raindrops. It's it's drenched, but it's in it's a macro, but it just says a lot. It really pops and great uh, follow through. It all makes sense in terms of the titling, the capture, the framing, and the movement in this is very aesthetically pleasing. It's a great photo, and certainly a blue. And this is one of those put together, playful, um, abstract photos. They've taken the stamens and given it uh, color and, titled it Fireworks. And used a nice color palette. It's simplistic, and it does look like fireworks going off. Again, this is one of those kind of put together and play type photos, but certainly worthy of a blue. Again, this is oh top photo. Woo! Um, I think this is European touch, and I mean, look at that. It's excellent horticulture specimen, wonderful, separation, perfect uh, exhibition form, and but so they did a play on the name and did the European landmark as icons behind it to frame it. It's very simplistic and wonderfully done. This is great coloration, and it's of rose hips, and it just shows tracery. You can tell what it is, and it's got a great framing, coloration. It's very unique. It fits that pattern of distinction, lighting. And it's very balanced. Again, this is black and white. Oh my gosh, it is just an incredible photo. It's a macro, but um, it's at a different angle, and you see the movement in the stamens and anthers, and the detail of this is just great. And they chose to do it in black and white, makes it a real standout. The angle, the framing, the composition, it's, it's all excellent. Again, a blue. Likewise, something you don't expect, and this is like the backside uh, of the sepals that are unfurled, and then it's black and white, but there's coloration of the inside parts of the rose, and having that maroon pop in two places, the balance and the lines with this, it it fills the frame, and it draws you to each corner of this, and it really is a magnificent photo, and you can actually see the 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 softness of the peduncle, and against the texture of the sepals and the texture of the petals and texture. It's a classic photo. It's very, very well done, extremely distinctive. So all of what we looked at, and I'll just do a really quick roundup: layering, photo name play, macro, a little playfulness, horticultural excellence with some photoshopping in the background playing off the name, tracery on hips, black and white on those parts with a specific angle, hard and soft textures, great framing. So I pulled what I felt were the top three of the abstracts, um, and then tried to uh, point score them, because deciding just from saying I like or I think or I feel I needed something more concrete uh, for myself. And so you can see how I've points for it A, B, and C. And again, this was very, very difficult. But I think that the nod went to A, and because I could not find a, a single fault with it. Okay? And sometimes when you get down to like the top three or the top two, you are about looking for, does it have any flaw, any minor flaw, and then that's what you're going to get. So I chose A as the best, but of these three, I don't think there would be a wrong answer. Okay? Excellent photos. I'm always impressed with the creativity and the imagination of our photographers. Okay, I'd like to turn it over to Bill, who will cover traditional arrangements and other classes.
Okay, when we're judging traditional arrangements, let's see a photo of a traditional arrangement miniature standard following ARS guidelines. For judging rose arrangements, rows do not need to be identified. Name of the arranger must be listed. We always want to make sure the arranger gets credit for the work they do. When you're doing this, questions you can ask yourself, is all plant material fresh? Is the spacing of the roses effective? Is the arrangement balanced? Is the lighting effective? Sometimes you'll see photos that are really good photos, but there's some harsh shadows that will kind of downplay it. And is the subject matter taken at eye level? When I first started photographing them, that was something I never considered. I didn't do arrangements and I didn't really know. And I found out later that when they arrangement judges judge arrangements, they're doing it at eye level is how the arranger wants the arrangement to be viewed. So you don't want it taken from a side angle. You want it straight on, and you want it, if you're tall like me, you may have to scoot down a little to get the shot you want because I'm a little bit taller than most of the arrangement judges and designers. So that's another consideration. And are there distractions? Common things we'll see. People will leave tags there. You'll see the rosettes, certificates. So you can't touch the arrangements when you're photographing them, but you can move the awards out of the way to get the photo of the arrangement 10 or so. That's something else you don't want. Going back to the second one is spacing of the rows effective. One thing I talked to Pam about the other day was kind of judging arrangements. If you don't know a lot about arrangements, kind of try to think of it as a spray. As far as spacing, voids. And if you kind of look at arrangements in that context, it'll give you a pretty good idea of, if you're looking at as a spray and you see big voids or areas missing, that's one of the things you can look at when you're judging the arrangements. And first one, we have a beautiful traditional arrangement here. Spacing great, the color is just outstanding. You got that really nice contrast with the peach and the lavender colors. The background is really nice, kind of goes in with the lavender color. You're not seeing any harsh shadows. Lighting's perfect on it. Just a beautiful, beautiful photo of a great arrangement. And here's one of the things you really don't want to do. You're taking photos of arrangements. You want to make sure you get the whole arrangement. Here, the top of the arrangement's chopped off. The bottom of the curve is chopped off along with the container itself. So you want to make sure that you include the whole arrangement in the thing. Sometimes I've seen really great photos where people have just chopped off. A lot of times you'll see material used for lines and grasses or things like that, and they just chop off the end of it and don't include it. And that's something you have to downscore. Even if it doesn't seem like a lot, you want the total arrangement is how the designer wanted it to be seen, so you want to make sure that's all included in the photo. Another one here, it's a nice arrangement, but if you look at the arrangement, like I said, kind of as if you're looking at a horticultural spray, if you don't know a lot of design techniques, and you can kind of see there's some nice blooms, but there's a lot of buds and there's a lot of greenery in the space kind of up in the upper left-hand side of the arrangement is there's kind of big voids without blooms. So that's something you kind of want to avoid if you're judging photos of arrangements. And also another thing with this photo on the right-hand side, looking at it, there's kind of shadows on where the side and the back of the backgrounds meet, and you kind of have a dark shadow there. It does balance it a little with the material that's behind the arrangement, but it is a little distracting. And here we have a nice traditional arrangement. You can see there's no voids in it. The lighting's good. The roses are a nice quality. Now I would consider this a blue arrangement, but to me it just seems a little flat. Just doesn't seem to have the dimensions of some of the other ones that I've seen. So even though I do think it's blue, it would be probably one of the lower blues for me. Here we have another beautiful arrangement. Nice framing on it. The roses are spectacular. This is a little bit tighter arrangement where the first one was a little bit more loose, a little more spacing in it. This one's very tight. The lavender flowers kind of in between the irresistible blooms fill it in really nice. Perfect arrangement, perfect lighting. Really love this one for me. This would be, a really high blue. And you don't have any shadows in it. So then when you come down to picking the three best, the horticultural excellence, the first two, the blooms pretty spectacular. I don't see any issues. Example C, I downgraded horticulture a little bit. There's some nice blooms, but there's a lot of buds in it, and just don't seem to have the quality of the other two. The composition, the first two I gave full points to. The third one, it just seems like there's a lot of container showing. Not being an arranger, but looking at it with my eyes view, it seems like if they would have extended the blooms down a little bit more, covered some of that container, it wouldn't have been as dominant. Would have been a lot nicer arrangement. So I kind of downgraded it as far as the composition. For the technique, the first two said I gave full points to. There's no shadows, color's great on them. The lighting is perfect on them. And for the third one, like I said, to me, looking at it, it just seems flat. It just doesn't seem to have that three-dimensional quality that the other two have. So I downgraded it, a little bit more for the technique also. And then for the distinction, the third one, I downscored that. And the first two, for me, this was really close. It kind of could have been almost a toss-up between the two of them. The first one though just has that distinction that just it kind of pops a little more than the second one. Although they're both beautiful, I gave that a point more than I did for the second one. So that would have been my overall. That just the color and the combination just was that little bit more to push it over the other one. And like Pam said, with some of the other classes, um, sometimes you judge, it's fairly easy, you know, 1, 2, 3. Other times, I mean, it's a matter of very minuscule. It may not even be a full point. It could be a half a point. You know, you might see difference in the arrangement. So um, for me, I picked A for the best arrangement. Other judges could have went the other way. It was that close. Other judges may have thought it was a little bit too loose. They might not have liked the spacing, so they may have went the other way. But um, that's something you'll come up with judging, just like judging horror. Um, photos can be the same type of thing. Judging macro class. Macro is a term generally used for any type of close-up photography. Should be extreme close-ups of any part of the rose or rose plant, includes prickles, leaves, etc. Color, black and white, sepia, or combinations permitted in this class, and the roses must be identified. You're judging this class, questions you ask yourself with something very small or detailed made life-size. I had looked up the definition for macro, and it said basically you're looking for something that's life size, you know, 1-to-1 ratio or even more than that. So um, you're basically looking something small to be made, you know, life size or bigger. So um, second thing is the main subject and sharp focus. A lot of times people will take photos of a rose and then crop it down to just show you the stamens or sepals or different other parts of the rose. And if you have high enough resolution, that works. I've done that quite a bit, but um, if you don't have the resolution, the stuff starts to get fuzzy and pixelated, and um, that's not good. So if it, you know, you're making it bigger, you want it to still be sharp. You know, when you enlarge it, is the lighting not too harsh or not too dark? It's another question. And is there a sense of originality? You can see judging a lot of times in macro class, we'll get lots and lots of photos of stamens, you know, close up of the center of the rose. So sometimes it's not real exciting, but if it's done really well, it still can score really well. But as Pam showed with some of the examples in the abstract class, um, taking a different angle, taking it from behind um, the stamens, you know, or just changing the angle a little bit will give you a little bit more, you know, points as far as sense of originality. And here's the first one. You got altissimo stamens. It's an awesome rose for this class. Just the yellow of the stamens and you know the velvety redness of the petals always makes this one of the contenders for you know some of the better photos in this class. I like the cropping on this is nice. Um, the focus on the stamens and the pistils is really nice. Um, just a very nice photo. And here we have a collection of stamens. This was the first I've seen this done. So this, to me, when I saw this, I was really surprised. So as far as originality, that's, you know, that would get full points for me because I haven't seen this done before, but it's really well executed. You can see the focus on everything is really good. The composition's nice. I may have left it a little bit larger. I might not have cut off some of the stamens. That was the only issue I had with this one. I would have liked to seen, you know, all of the stamens in the composition, but beautiful, beautiful photo. And this is one that gets centered a lot. It's a picture of a hip. It's not really macro. It's kind of a, basically a photo of a hip. You're not seeing the clarity, even though it's not really macro. Even the parts that you do see, the focus isn't great on. Looks kind of flat. Had they cropped it in, maybe a lot of times I've seen a lot of photos and I've entered photos of hips. In brain freeze with the sepals on. And a lot of times they make really interesting photos. The sepals tend to curl. You'll see a lot of little details on them. So if you're looking to submit kind of something with hips, you might want to focus more on that. But this photo just kind of doesn't really meet what we're looking for. And it's another excellent photo. It's really close in. Picture of the prickles on a rose. The only issue is it's really close in, but the focus is kind of off on it. For being that close, the focus is pretty good, but it just doesn't have the crispness and sharpness. But as far as originality, it's really, really high scoring there. The color's nice, the lighting's good on it, but it just, without that crispness, it just kind of loses a little bit. But really nice imaginative shot. And this is another one that shows up a lot in the contest. People say, well, it's the center of the rose, but basically you're showing kind of half of the bloom. It's not really macro. It's not in, this could have been cropped down and blown up more if the resolution was good enough, but I doubt it because you can see even the center petals that are showing on it, as it starts to unfurl, it's losing a lot of the crispness. And then once again, a lot of photographers just love raindrops or water on the roses. And while you might love it, it might be pretty, when we're judging in photo contests, it really is a distraction. Reflects a lot of light, your eyes get pulled right to those. So this one suffers quite a bit for this class. So another class might have done better, but for macro, it's not really macro photo. And if you tried to crop it in more, the focus is not really good enough to do that either. So we come down to selecting the best. These were the blues out of the group. Composition were all really good. The last one I scored down just a little bit. I might have cropped it in a little bit more, made that center just a little bit more, the story of the photo. Like I said, that the beautiful red velvety petals enhance it, but I just would have liked the stamens just a little bit, more prominent in the photo. For the technique, the first one, I said I love what they did with it, but it's just for macro, you want sharpness. You are making really small things large, but it just doesn't have that clarity and crispness that the other two have. And for the other two, like I said, the collection of the stamens, I would have liked to seen all of the anthers and not have them chopped off. So I would have tried to, leave it a little bit more. And also for the last one, like I said, I would have liked to seen that just cropped in a little more, made the stamens, more prominent in the photo, a little bit less of the red, framing of it. And then for distinction, first one, it's just, something we don't see a lot, just a really great idea. So I gave that the full 15. The second one, same thing. I haven't seen, collection put together like that. So that got the full 15. And the last one, I said, it's something we see a lot. It's really well done, but I did score down because it's something that we see a lot. So the best would have been, B for me, with the collection of the stamens. Really, really nice execution. Judging garden photos, photo of any rose garden, photographs to show use of the roses within the structure of a garden, which can be widely variable. Roses should dominate in the photo, and some layer of the garden should be visitable. Questions to ask: do roses dominate? You don't want structures or something else being your main focus. And the best thing I learned as far as entering, garden photos years ago, Curtis Allmiller and Nancy Reddington were judging a show, and I had some garden photos I had entered, and they were more or less weren't really so much of the garden, but things in the garden. And the one thing they told me is whenever you're entering, or judging, look at the photo and what is this photo of is a good question to ask yourself. I've seen some beautiful garden photos that there's a bench in the center that dominates. Tom's got Mayu had a famous photo of his with the garden bench, but the garden, basically the photo was of the bench in a garden. I've seen some other ones with statues. It's a beautiful photo, but it's basically of a statue in a garden. So that's when you're judging, that's a really good question to ask yourself, right off the bat, and it kind of helps you eliminate some of the photos right off the bat, because if something's dominating the photo other than the roses or the layout of the roses, it's not what we're looking for in this class. Is there any design quality to the landscapes? Another question. Is there movement created by the design elements in the photo? That's my second thing when I'm judging garden photos or entering garden photos. Once I know it's a photo of a rose garden, my second question is, is there movement in the garden? Sometimes you look at a photo and your eyes just kind of focus on one thing and just sit there. Whereas a good landscape or garden photo, something in the photo is going to make your eyes wander, like you're walking through the garden. It's going to pull your eyes along a path. Maybe the lines of the garden, some gardens are framed with boxwood, will pull you through the paths, or you see the paths in the garden, or just the angle, the way it's taken, may pull you through the garden colors, or, to a tree line, to a sky. That's something we're really looking for, in a good garden photo. And another thing is the exposure correct. Seen lots of beautiful garden photos taken on a bright sunny day. It's a beautiful day to visit the garden, but not so much photographing it. Colors tend to get washed out. So if you are shooting garden photos, if it's possible, you try to do it on a day, with good weather conditions where it's not bright or right out in the middle of the day when things are really, really, overexposed. Another thing is it well cropped. That's something that can make and break a garden photo. A lot of times you can get rid of things that you don't want in there, or just the way it's cropped can kind of make it from a also ran photo to something really, really good. And is there a focal point? Usually when you look at a photo, your eyes are going to get pulled to something originally, and you don't want them to stay on the focal point and not go anywhere else. You want them to go to that focal point and then kind of have your eyes wander around the photo so that you can see all of the photo and the different parts of the garden that the photographer is trying to show you. And the first thing when I saw this photo was, what is this a photo of? And my answer was, it was a garden cart in a rose garden. So kind of right there, this kind of bumps that out. Also, do the roses dominate? Well, in this, basically you've got, once you see the garden cart, half of the photo's pretty much lawn. So roses are not the dominant, feature of this photo. Also, the exposure, this is taken on a bright sunny day, so the exposure is not great. So even the roses that are there on the right side and deep into the background, you're not really enjoying them because you don't really get to see them too much. So not something you want in a garden photo. I love this photo when I saw it. It's neat. It's kind of framed by, there's a pathway on the outside. It's framed by the greenery along the path and the rail. I don't know if this was in Columbus. They had something similar to this when we were there. I took some photos. The Park of Roses in Columbus has something similar. There's a walkway you go in and you can see the garden through it. But um, once again, cropping, I think, would have helped this. There's a beautiful garden there, but that's only maybe a third of the picture. Um, a lot of the picture is the background, the space we were taking it from. So it's really heavy on the bottom with the rail and the spacing there, and also on the sides. I would have brought that in a lot more. You've got the greenery there, and then also the tree line. You could have probably went down farther on that to make the garden itself more of the focus of the photo. It is a gorgeous photo, but you do want the rose garden to be the dominant fixture, and also it's another photo with the lighting. Once again, you can see the exposure is kind of light, so you don't really get to enjoy all those gorgeous roses that are in full bloom. Um, the colors are kind of muted and kind of washed out a little, so um, you know that's something that also would have helped if could have darkened it up a little bit. This one here, I ask is, what is it a photo of? And I kind of want to say almost a rose arbor, but there's also garden with it, so it's not so much just that. It also has a garden in. It's got the fountain inside, that draws your attention through. So it is a nice composition. But once again, this one, the exposure's, it's overexposed, so it's really light. So even though it's shot really well, I like the design. The angle they took it at. The fountain is not right in the center of the arch; it's off to the side, so it does get some interest. And when I first look at it, my eyes get drawn to the arch, and they get pulled down to the fountain, and they also you can kind of see the circular features of the beds that move around the fountain. So there is motion in it. Um, it's just the exposure is kind of very light, so you don't get to really fully enjoy the garden as much as you would have had it been taken at maybe a different time of day, or the exposure could have been adjusted a little bit on the photo to make it darker. And here's another picture of a garden over in Italy. Beautiful photo, but um, you can see here what cropping will make a difference. You've got the beautiful, roses with the reflection in the water, and then the first one you have, a beautiful blue sky, but you don't quite get the impact you do on the second one. That was cropped in a little tighter. A lot of that blue sky is kind of open space, and when it's cropped down, your eyes get focused, pulled more toward the roses, and then your eyes go to the roses, and then you get pulled down into the reflection in the water, and then they kind of want to move up. There's a statue there which isn't really dominant, but it does also give you a little bit something else for your eyes to move to. So um, the first one's a really good photo, but cropping it in can help it be even better. So um, it's a really good example of of showing what a difference cropping can make in in a garden photo. And here's another one. This is a really great example of motion in a garden photo. When I look at it, uh, my eyes kind of go to the roses on the bottom left, and then they kind of get pulled toward the fountain. and then they get pulled back over to the three large trees on the left-hand side. Then they want to continue down one of the different paths of the boxwood or whatever type of material it is surrounding the garden. And my eyes just constantly want to, keep moving around. They go to the roses, to the trees. It's not a static, um, view of a rose garden. The color's nice. The exposure's a little bit light on it, but you really can see that bright, vibrant color in the garden, and the roses definitely dominate the photo. So here we have the three top photos. The composition, the first two I gave the full 15. The third one, C, I down scored that a little. Like I said, I would have liked it cropped a little bit more so that the garden was more the focus. It's just a lot, you're just not seeing a lot of the roses. You're seeing more of the foreground than you are the roses. So I down scored that. For technique, the first one was a little bit light, a little bit overexposed. The second one also, the lighting wasn't perfect. The sky's kind of light in it. And then the same for the third one. All three of them, kind of the lighting, isn't perfect in. So they all kind of lost a little bit for that. A little bit of, all kind of a little overexposed. And then for distinction, the first two I gave full points to, and then the third one I marked down a little. It just, I said I love the photo, but it just, as far as scoring it for a rose garden, it just kind of didn't have the pop and the appeal for that the other two did, as far as the rose garden itself being the the focus of the photos.
Okay. Bill, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So, um, so we've covered a number of classes, and I just want to address again, growing your photography exhibiting participation in your local society and district, because judges are the drivers and engagers in this. Um, so it's very, very important to lead by example. Uh, Show people your portfolio. Show them why you are judging rose photos. And to do that, you need to take a ton of photos and compete at the district and national level. The horticulture judges and arrangement judges should have a huge edge because you understand the 50% of the uh, point scoring on a photo. So you really want to lean into that. Then, if you will, rebrand your show, Rose and Photography Show. Give thought to how you want to display photography exhibits and the winners. Um, the ladders are very effective. There are many local and district groups that have uh, great display ladders, and that's for we want to merchandise up, just like a nursery or any retailer would do. You want to merchandise up the incredible um, work of the exhibitors. I think there's a lot we can do on that forefront and not put photography in some, back room or on some crowded table or God forbid outdoors because there's not enough space for it. Photography is the uh, up and coming uh, exhibitors uh, challenge and dream really. Uh, so many different walks of life can engage in it, in so many different age groups, and it's convenient. So we really want to to focus on this. Uh, Host photo shoots spring and fall. Solicit great prizes for your winning photos. In my local show, I know 10 years ago we may have had eight maybe to 12 um, photo exhibits, and we would do a ribbon and a certificate. We do um, we do a huge award for first, second, and third, and it's a sought after donation from one of our business supporters. And so first place is $150 award, second place 100, third place is 50. So now we have, instead of 8 to 12 exhibits, um, we have anywhere from 100 to 130 exhibits. So a lot of competition, and we've pulled in more and more photographers. Instead of having, you know, 2 or 3 photographers, we may have 15 to 20 photographers. So then select winning photos for your program cover, and put photos that have won in the past inside your program. You've got beautiful photography. Use that uh, in your schedule inside your program. And you want to be sure to post local winners on your society social media sites, and make a big deal of it, and feature these photos, the winning photos, in your local and district newsletter. And by all means, recognize winning exhibitors at district events. When we announce and when we announce our national winners, it's an expectation that the that in the spring, pre-spring district meetings, that those winning exhibitors are announced at that district event, and they're shown on the big screen. I know, Bill Kay wouldn't think of hosting or attending the district event without recognizing the photography uh, winners in the national contest, because he, the number of people in his district, they're front and center. And there are a number of other. I know when Jackie was up in um, her district, she's always going to show in the newsletter and in any district event. It's going to give credit to those exhibitors, because you want to socialize the photography. I mean, that's how we showcase our product. And our product is roses. Um, and it's a convenient way to engage in this hobby, all age groups. So definitely want to do that. So there, as I mentioned earlier, there's coursework, and it goes around skill building. So Gary is going to send a survey to you, and I guess you'll be receiving that shortly after this event for attending. Once you've completed, and completed if you're a judge or not. I saw a number of very interested, very talented exhibitors tune in, and I'm glad you did. And I hope you have your sights uh, built on becoming a horticulture judge, and specializing or focusing your talents and skills on the photography discipline. So if you will, complete that survey, and then I'd like for you all to send via Dropbox, and I'll send out a link to you, 5 photos from your portfolio. You can do 3 horticulture classes and 2 creative classes. Creative classes being macro garden, put arrangements in there, um, abstract impressionism, and send those uh, via Dropbox to American Rose Photo at yahoo.com. Okay. Yeah, uh, via Dropbox, and it will go to American Rose Photo. I want you then to just take a sheet of paper, point score your 5 photos, separate sheet of paper, add commentary to that. You can handwrite it or you can type it using photo terminology that you've heard today. Okay. And so you're critiquing your own photos. And I've had people do this before. I don't want you the kind of commentary to come back. All 5 of my photos are beautiful photos. Okay? I truly want you to point score them and add commentary using photo terminology. All you're looking for is 5 photos. And if you're a photo judge, if you are judging photos of others, you should have that in your portfolio. I mean, you should be able to dig up, three photos of a hort class and a couple of creative classes, and they don't all have to be blues. It's whatever photos you have, but the goal is that you are able to give them a fair critique, and that's the mission. Okay, and then from that you will receive feedback because one of our um, top exhibitors who are judges who are engaged in photography uh, will go through that critique and they'll give you feedback. Okay, so that way you get your own personal coaching. The goal of this training is skill building because we have a lot of exhibitors and we need a lot of talented judges to keep up with those exhibitors. Because I this is the year of photography, and I think working together collectively, we can triple our photography discipline, and that's at a local, district, and national level. And I hope you are on board with that.